Hey guys, AscendantGod here, and shout out from down below. Here with Raid Shadow Legends. Instead of doing a champion spotlight today, we're going to actually do a little something different, just kind of touching on base about the champion imbalances. So kind of a champion spotlight, but more so about like, why is things so imbalanced? So it's going to be on Black Knight here. Black Knight is a legendary. He's a hit point champion. He's Bannerlords, factions, red affinity, and he's garbage. Absolute garbage. I mean, it's ridiculous how horrible he is. It's a travesty, actually. I mean, even Nancy Kerrigan can't believe it. Look at her.
Why?
I mean, this is just horrible. Now, to show you why I wanted to touch on this, there was a lot of discussion in the forums about this, where in the latest news there was a balance update recently, and with the balances it makes no sense. They improved Alten, who was already a pretty good champion. From my experience against him in Arena, he could be devastating with his abilities, and then they increased his allied defense in all battles by 33%, and it's like they improved his aura when he was already decent. But then meanwhile, I believe it was either Angar or Errol, or maybe even both, where they did stuff to them that didn't really help them much. And then it's like, Turvold, they did help some. I was almost about to replace Turvold in my clan boss group, because with a 30% chance of weaken, it was garbage. Like, he was never placing it. It's like, why am I going to have him in my group when he brings no debuffs to the table? All he does is buff himself. He doesn't buff anybody else, and he does some decent raw damage, but like, it's not worth having clan boss, not worth dungeons, not worth anything. Now, with the 55% chance and with skills 75%, he's worthwhile. But then you have like War Chief. People say War Chief is still garbage, and yeah, and then it's like there's champions like, you know, Black Knight, who I'm gonna head to him really quick, just show you. So Black Knight, that got absolutely no love, and it's been months and months and months of people bringing up the issues with him, and yet he still goes unfixed. And let me show you why. Like, look at this. Like, I have him in Faction Wars, yet I have trash gear on him. All right, I have better gear on my Horden for Bannerlords than I do him. Let me show you why. Okay, so his best skill is his Last Breath. Attacks all enemies, damage increases according to the amount of hit points his champion has lost. So you would think, like, okay, you want to load him up with a lot of hit points, you want him to have a lot of survival in order to be able to do one final attack with this. Now, one issue with it is that it doesn't scale that well. Alright, it scales decently. Like when you get really low on hit points, it scales okay, but nothing that spectacular. My Deathless, who's an epic, scales better off of other champions dying than he scales off of losing his own hit points. So that makes no sense. So, and it's a 6-turn cooldown. Like, again, it's like a 6-turn cooldown, and all you can do is increase the damage. You can't even reduce the cooldown from 6 turns. Like, it's literally going to be his last breath, because he's only going to be able to do it once, and then he's going to keel over and die. So, and it ties into this ability here, where it's the Valorious passive, and you notice this champion's such garbage that it's like, I haven't even bothered to ascend him. So I feel like it's a waste of potions to do this. Places an unkillable buffalo on him for 1 turn if incoming damage exceeds 30% max hit points in 1 attack. Okay, so I get to survive and do 1 single attack with Last Breath, assuming that I don't have this on auto, which makes him garbage for dungeons. But let's say assume in Faction Wars at least, alright? Okay, he becomes unkillable for a turn. That's only for 1 turn. So then what happens? It's the same thing that happens to Skullcrown in Arena. Okay, she becomes invincible after she goes below 30% hit points. She has 1 turn where she gets to attack you. Very next turn, you one-shot her because she's at 1 hit point. Same thing happens to him, which is why he's worthless in my group. Like, he doesn't, I don't have this, so he doesn't get to 1 hit point, but it's like with his skills here, he gets attacked, he has people hitting him, wheedling down his life, and then he ends up freaking dying. So I'm like, well, why am I going to make him unkillable when it's only going to last for 1 turn anyway? It's pretty much going to be the same thing that's going on now. It's just at best, maybe he'll get this 1 last attack, but usually he gets it anyway. So, I mean, I just do it once he gets low. But, and it's nothing impressive. And then his A2 makes no sense. 15% continuous heal buff, 30% increased defense buff, 30% increased defense. My Steel Skull, who's an epic, has a 60% increased defense and a 20% heal immediately based off of their max hit points. Not a 15% continuous, which is slower, a 20% immediately. And then she buffs that up 30%. So it's a 30% heal really with the tombs and a 60% increased defense. And that's an epic. And meanwhile, this is a legendary. And a 15% continuous heal. You can't even increase it down here. It's 15% maximum, that's it. So 30% overall. He does the amount of healing in 2 turns that Steel Skull does in 1 turn for your champions. Which one do you think is going to be better for survival? And then a 30% increased defense, when again, she does a 60%. Yes, Steel Skull's a woman. You can notice by the gratuitous cleavage here. This is a woman. It's nipple rings. Alright, so, jumping back here though. Alright, so this is a joke. I mean, at the bare minimum, this should be 60% increased defense. It should be at least, like, say a 25% continuous heal, or maybe not a continuous, maybe an immediate heal like Steel Skull. I don't know, but I don't even feel like that belongs on this champion. The whole point of this champion is supposed to be to take a lot of damage and then to basically increase the damage output based on the damage they take. Why not make this like an AoE provoke? Because the only provoke he has is this here, which is places a provoke debuff if his attack is critical. And this is where it makes no sense, okay? Because he's a hit point champion. You need a lot of crit rate on him in order to provoke, but yet in order to make sure that he survives, he needs a lot of hit points. You can't even put a lot of defense into him, because if you put a lot of defense into him, then he loses less hit points, which means that this isn't going to hit as hard. The whole point of him is to have a ton of hit points on him, low defense, so he loses a lot of hit points to make this scale more. But then it's like, okay, well, I need attack on him to increase his damage output. I need a very high crit rate in order to have a good chance of placing a provoke on a champion. And then I need a lot of hit points on top of that in order to make sure that he survives and that his damage scales well. So you're giving me a legendary where you expect me to get a bunch of hit points and attack and crit rate on him all at the same time. Really? Really? That just makes no sense. He's a hit point champion. Like, he could be easily fixed. Alright? Like, number one, this... Alright, let me actually touch on this first. This first, instead of it increasing according to the amount of hit points this champion's lost, no. What it should be is to the amount of damage this champion has received. Okay? And the reason that I say that is because, say, if he has this Valorious passive, number one, instead of it being an unkillable buff, it should be a block damage buff on him. I mean, Rashkar could block damage on all of your champions for 2 turns as a legendary. Okay? He should at least be able to block damage on himself for at least 1 turn. Really 2, if you want to make him comparable to Rashkar or comparable to a decent legendary. He should block damage for 2 turns. So, I mean, this is 6-turn cooldown anyway, so it's not like you're going to get to use it more than once anyway, even if he does block damage for 2 turns. But the reason I say this should be a block damage buff, because, okay, say he gets, more than 30% max hit points in 1 attack, blocks damage for 2 turns, and you make this cooldown, instead of it being 2 turns, you make it for, say, a 4-turn cooldown. Something like that. Okay? Because the 2 turns, it's like, yeah, every other turn he could become unkillable, but then he's at 1 hit point, he's most likely going to get killed anyway. So it's like, this isn't going to help his survival. Make it a longer cooldown, but make it a block damage for 2 turns. Okay, good. And then, but what about the other issue here? This last breath attack. Okay, let's fix this. Again, damage increases according to the amount of damage this champion has taken. Okay, so when he blocks damage, say, that he has received, basically. So what it would do is basically that, say this is a block damage buff, and say he would have taken 13,000 damage, but this triggered and he didn't take the 13,000 damage. Yet he received 13,000 damage, he just blocked the damage. So that would help this scale for 13,000 damage, basically that it's going to make this scale higher, that he took that damage, he blocked it, but he still received 13,000. And then say another, enemy hits him for 8,000, then okay, great, now it's up to 21,000. And it scales based on how much damage he would have taken, even with the block damage. Okay, so then now, all right, this is fixed. Now this scales without him having to get within an inch of life in order to make this scale. Okay, and then as far as this doesn't even belong here. He should have some type of AoE provoke. He really should. This doesn't belong here with this champion. It makes no sense. It's a complete contradiction. This here, it shouldn't be based on a crit. A crit, it makes no sense. You're expecting us to spread this champion in 3 directions. You expect us to get a lot of attack on him for damage output, or you're just not going to have much damage on him. You got to have a lot of crit rate on him, or else he's not going to provoke, which means he's not going to take a lot of damage, which defies the whole point of his last breath, which is the only thing that makes him even remotely viable. And then there's not, you don't benefit from hit points. Like, it's like, make him a hit point champion, make his damage scale off of hit points, and then make this scale off of hit points. Get rid of this, turn this into like some type of evoker son. This needs to completely go. This doesn't belong here. And then again, change this into a block damage buff, but that the damage is still taken into consideration when it comes to last breath. And then what would happen here is that you could make him viable in groups that are about survival. So you have people who are a strong healer in the group, or you have lifesteal on him, okay? And then you make this a 4-turn cooldown, you make it 2 turns for blocking damage, and instead of this 6 turns, really, make it at least like 5 turns, or better 4 turns. Make it scale better, because the scaling is a joke right now. And then, eliminate this whole attack critical thing. Make it like a 75% provoke, or an 85% provoke or something. Like, he's a legendary. He should provoke. He shouldn't have to get a crit for it. Come on. They spread him too thin in too many different directions. And then again, this Valorious, like, it makes him unkillable, but it still lets the enemy wean him down to 1 hit point. So it's like basically all he does is he dies and does some damage in the process of dying. I don't need that in my roster. I don't need that in my faction wars. Like, the only reason he's in my faction war group is because I didn't have any other banner lords. I literally had 5 banner lords in my vault when faction wars happened. So I was like, oh, well, I guess I'm going to have to use Black Knight. I regret having to use him. He sucks. I mean, again, look at the gear the gear I have on him is a joke, because he doesn't do much anything. I mean, I have a high amount of crit rate on him, but then it's like I couldn't get a bunch of attack and a bunch of hit points and a bunch of crit rate and a bunch of crit damage. So it's like, yeah, he has high crit rate. He doesn't have a lot of crit damage. Doesn't have a whole lot of hit points. And he's spread in way too many directions. It just, again, doesn't make sense. So, but like I said, a lot of easy ways he could be fixed, and I already covered some of the ways of just changing these that could be fixed. This can't be fixed. This A2, it just needs to go. At the bare minimum, it needs to be a bigger continuous heal. It needs to be a 60% increased defense, but it really doesn't belong on this champion at all. And I mean, you compare him to other legendaries, like you look at Martyr. I mean, Martyr, albeit she is an extremely powerful legendary, amazing counter champion, but with her, she has an A3 that attacks all enemies, 50% decrease attack, and a provoke debuff. Not an 80% chance, not a you have to get a crit to get a provoke. It puts provoke on them unless they resist it. So it decreases their attack by 50%, and it provokes them. So it makes them weaker, it makes all your enemies weaker, and it makes them all attack you with their A1, which is usually the enemy's weakest attack. And then on top of that, she increases the defense of all your champions and gives a counterattack on all of them. And in case that wasn't enough, she has a defense down on her A1, which makes her amazing for clan boss. Absolutely amazing for clan boss. And just overall in dungeons as well, because then she puts that decreased defense down on the bosses in the dungeons. She's absolutely amazing. And then you got champions like Black Knight here, where you look at his and it's like, it's a joke. It's an absolute joke. And I mean, this should at least scale really, really well, because I mean, it's like, if you're in a dungeon and you're fighting a boss, and it's like, okay, you're having to get him killed in order to do damage, he should do a hell of a lot of damage if he's going to be going down in order to do the damage. You know, and the thing is that's really sad here is like you look at Sacred Order and it's like they have amazing champions. They got Santa Claus here. Santa Claus is amazing. They got this Venus, I think it is, right? Venus, Venus is great. You got Roshgard, who's like God broken in Arena, and overall, I mean, he's amazing as well. You got this Cupid dude, Martyr, who's amazing. I mean, they have some really amazing legendaries in this, and then even like their epics, like he's really good. You know, my Aethar, he's great. He's got some great poisons, blocks cooldown skills. You got Relic Keeper, who's decent. You got I don't know what her name is. This support champion, who's pretty decent. I mean, you got a good handful of champions in here that are pretty good. But then you look at Bannerlords, and it's like, all right, Black Knight, trash. Raglan, Rachelin, whatever. She's the only I think she's the only healer in the legendaries. She's garbage. She's like a slightly buffed shaman, or like the redheaded stepchild of Arbiter. It's just she's garbage. Like when I got her, like let me put it this way: I got her months ago. I was so frustrated with her compared to the other legendaries that I got, and when I wasted time maxing her out, I used her as freaking food. Like, and maybe that was stupid. Now I kind of regret it with Faction Wars. But not really. I mean, she's still garbage. Like for Faction Wars, yeah, she'd be okay. But overall, freaking trash. But yeah, I mean, using her as food was kind of stupid. I was very, very frustrated that night, and there was some other things that tied into that, including just very frustrated with dating. Dating in your 40s sucks. Let me just say that. But anyway, but yeah, just there's nobody that great here. I mean, Septimus is decent. He extends debuffs, which is great. Lugan is decent. But you don't really have any other really decent champions to combine them with. Like, say, like Septimus, I don't even know who has, like, really good debuffs here. That's the problem, is, like, there's nobody that's that great. And then the rares, none of the rares are particularly spectacular. Conqueror is nice, where you can remove buffs on the enemy, I think. But Grandpa's horrible. These other Valerie's okay. But, I mean, nothing that great at all. Like, it's a horrible faction. And it's like, maybe before you launched Faction Wars, you should have really considered balancing groups, because some of these factions are great. Like, I feel like my undead, at least my undead, are great. Demon Spawn, horrible. I mean, look at my group, like Inithway. Inithway is a joke. And then it's like, you don't even have any commons in this. It starts at uncommons. It's like, it's rare that I ever even get Demon Spawn. And then it's like, you look at the reviews for these guys, and it's like, you know, for some reason his are decent, but then it's like Marquis, he's absolute garbage. I don't even understand why his ratings are high. Ifrit, he's trash, absolute trash. Marquess, I want to like her, again, just she's trash. Like, surprisingly the reviews in-game seem, oh, it's because the reviews were reset. That's why. Yeah, the in-game reviews were reset, but these guys, these are not good. Like, that's where most of the reviews used to be. The reviews suck. Like, Houndspawn is garbage. Only thing that he's useful with is with that other champion Hellfang, where it's like the block that ignores defense. But my whole point behind this is that there's some of these factions, like, I want to love the Demon Spawn. Like, I love the darker side of things. Like, I love the Demon Spawn, I love the Undead, I love Dark Elves and Night Revenants. Like, I love the darker side of things. But I feel like Night Revenants and Demon Spawn, like, they don't have that many that are that great unless you really, really luck out. Like, I got Tomb Lord in this, and it's freaking trash. Tomb Lord and Bicephus. I have two legendaries in my Night Revenants. They suck. Bicephus is okay. Tomb Lord, garbage. He's broken just like Black Knight. He's not broken as Black Knight, but same kind of issue with him, where he's a support champion, but yet he's attack-based. He needs 100% crit rate to apply poisons. Just, he's too scattered in too many directions. Same thing. But anyway, but the main thing I wanted to touch on was Black Knight. But overall, there's a lot of champions that need to be buffed. There's a lot that need to be looked at. They really need to spend some more time balancing and stop. They know very well that things are horribly imbalanced in the game. Okay, there's no way they couldn't be aware that champions like Roshgard and Martyr are ridiculously powerful, and people like Black Knight and Shamrock are a joke. I mean, Shamrock, not even going there. I get the concept that they wanted to make it that, like, he's like, you know, a Shamrock, so he's about luck, and that's why so many of his things are like a 50% chance and 5% chance and 10% chance. But the thing is that you have such a slim chance at him actually being useful that unless you are really, really lucky, he's going to be garbage. And even if you are really lucky, he's still like maybe on par with an epic, even if he does a ton of his debuffs or buffs, whatever the heck he does. I don't remember. But even then, he's still garbage. Like, so anyway, but that's all that I got here for today, guys. I just wanted to touch on this for a little bit. Just because, I mean, I feel you guys' frustration. Like I said, I have Black Knight. Fortunately, I have a lot of other legendaries that are decent, but with Black Knight, I was almost tempted to use him as food. The only reason I didn't is because I knew Faction Wars was coming soon, so I'm like, might as well hang on to Black Knight. But, I mean, if I knew then what I know now, like, I mean, if I didn't level him to 50, and I had other Banner Lords to use, probably would have made him food too. I mean, it's about the only good that he'd serve right now. The only reason I hang on to him is in the hope that eventually, maybe Polarium will do some balancing and make him viable. But it's weird where it's like they took Dracomorph, and Dracomorph, I don't know what he was like before the patch that buffed him, because I got him after the buff. But when he was changed, he is now one of the most amazing poisoners for the clan boss, because, I mean, he has this, like, 3-turn poisons here. He's like a buffed up Aethar. He's like Aethar on steroids and with a weaken and a defense down too. Because Aethar has these 4 poisons like this on his A2, but for 2 turns. He has them for 3 here. So, but anyway, but it's like, yeah, you have champions like this that they buffed up amazingly, but then other champions like Tomb Lord that they buffed up in that same patch that I don't see it as a buff. I see it as like kind of like a modification, but not even necessarily a better one, just a modification. But Black Knight, I mean, he's in desperate need of some love here, and it's sad. It's sad how long he's gone unviable, and he's not the only one. There's a lot of other ones out there, so I'm not trying to single him out because I don't want to show bias. Like, I mean, if I were to show bias, like, yeah, I have him and I'm frustrated, but I feel just as bad for people who have, you know, Shamrock, where he sucks, or Astrolith, from what I've heard. I know she was garbage for a long time, and from what I've heard, she still isn't that great, even after the modification to her. You know, and so it's like some champions get modifications and then they're like overpowered, like Dracomorph's amazing. But then other people like Tomb Lord was like, not really. They made him God broken initially for Spider, but then they immediately nerfed him the very next day. And they nerfed him into the ground. They nerfed him in ways that didn't need to be nerfed. Like, it made him garbage again. But anyway. But that's all that I got for Black Knight here, though, guys. Like I said, he can be fixed. There's things that need to be changed here, and I feel like that's pretty simple. I mean, making this just block damage, making this based on how much damage he's taken, like he's received. So even when he blocks the damage, it still makes this scale. Reducing the cooldown on this, obviously. Increasing the cooldown of this to 4 turns, but making it last for 2 turns. You know, there's a lot of things that could be done on him to make him decent. I mean, it's like, he only has this one AoE, and at 6 turns, that's horrible, and then he has a single target that just, no, he's just, no. I mean, again, look at the gear that I got. This poor guy, I mean, I feel bad for him. He's legendary. Come on, give him some love, really. But anyway, if you guys have any questions, concerns, comments, stupid statements, let me know in the comments below. But I mean, you can even see some of these are yellow, and I feel like these ratings are overrated. I don't feel like he's even a 4.4 for campaign, but I mean, you look at the highest anything else is 4.2 for arena offense and defense, Dragon's Lair. Like, they have him at modest ratings for defense teams in arena. That's the only thing he's good for is for survival teams. But anyway, any questions, comments, guys, let me know. And feel free to add your own feedback of champions that need to be worked on too. Who knows, maybe eventually I can get this to Polarium, get them to watch, just get them to listen. But there's a lot of videos like this out there, but I mean, the more, the better. So that's all that I got for now though, guys. So I'll definitely do some more champion spotlights. Maybe I'll try to do a champion spotlight on him eventually. I've had a lot of other stuff going on, but eventually I do want to try to do a champion spotlight on him and at least try to help make him viable as best as possible. The best that I could say for now is that you do want to get that crit rate up on him. Basically, you don't want to worry about his attack. He's not going to do a lot of damage. It's just not going to happen. The best you can do is give him a lot of hit points, give him a high crit rate so he can at least draw damage away from your other champions and help them survive. And along with this, again, helping them survive. And try to get some attack on him to make this scale. I don't know how it scales with crit damage because he's spread so thin in so many different directions. I couldn't put a lot of crit damage on him, and a lot of crit rate, and a lot of attack, and a lot of hit points. Like, it's too many things to do. Too many stats. The only thing you don't want to worry about with him is, again, defense. You want him to have low defense because you want him to take a lot of damage, but they should eliminate they should just make changes. I mean, anyway, but that's all that I got, guys. So, yeah, hope that helps you a little bit here. And, yeah, there's a lot of champions out there that need to be worked on. So, you know, you're frustrated with Shamrock, you're frustrated with Astrolith, you're frustrated with Tomb Lord, you know, you're frustrated with whatever other legendary you have that's just kind of garbage. Like, there's a lot of garbage legendaries out there, we get it. And there's some great epics, and there's some pretty decent rares. So, you got to work with the best with what you got. And if you have a trash legendary, you know what? Stick them in your vault, because you never know when they're going to buff up the legendaries. There's definitely a better chance of them buffing legendaries and making them better for you months down the road than there is of them buffing up an epic. And I don't ever see them modify rares unless it's for a nerf, like with Painkeeper, where they put her into a shallow grave and destroyed her. But I don't ever remember them buffing anything like that. But anyway, you never know. I mean, eventually Black Knight may become like a Dracomorph, where Dracomorph used to be garbage. Again, I don't know what his issues were prior to the patch, because I got him after the patch that buffed him. But he's amazing for me. And months and months prior to that, he was garbage. And who knows? Maybe eventually one day they'll do the same to Black Knight. But for now, Black Knight is just one of the trash. So anyway, but again, I would encourage you to hang on to them, because you never know what's going to happen to the champions down the road. So, but again, until the next episode, guys, wish you luck as far as pulling decent legendaries. Hopefully down the road we'll see changes to champions here like Black Knight. And until then, I will catch you guys in the next episode. Until then. Hi guys, this is Anthony here, also known on this channel as AscendantGod. Wanted to thank you for checking out my channel here, really appreciate it. Be sure to check out the other videos. I got plenty of goodies on here. Also check out the description sections in the videos. Got plenty of links on there for all different kinds of goodies that I think would be worthwhile for you guys. If there is something in particular that you don't see on my channel that you want to see, be sure to let me know in the comment section as well. And I think that's about it. All I've got. I'm just going to get back to this thing here. I'm pretty sure if I just...
Oh, we have such sights to show you.
Wow. That's really funny. Same here.